So you've had a concussion. You did everything right. You rested, but those headaches, that dizziness, they just won't go away. Well, what if the key to feeling better isn't actually in your head? What if it's somewhere you'd probably never think to look? Today, we're going to dive into a surprising culprit that just might be the reason you're feeling stuck.
You know, this is the question that drives so many people crazy after a head injury. You've done what you're told, you've taken it easy, but that brain fog, the headaches, the dizziness, they're still there. It really can feel like you're trapped on this frustrating hamster wheel, right?
And that brings us to the big central mystery we're diving into today. What if the root cause of your stubborn concussion symptoms has nothing to do with your brain at all?
Okay, so let's start at the post-concussion puzzle. And first things first, let's be really clear. If this is you, you are not alone. This is incredibly common. For a ton of people, the concussion itself is just the beginning of this long, confusing journey with these symptoms that just seem to hang around forever.
Yeah, just look at this number. It's kind of staggering, right? So a 2016 study found that almost half, 47.9% of people with a mild traumatic brain injury are still dealing with significant persistent symptoms a whole year later. I mean, this isn't some rare fringe issue. This is a reality for so many people.
And this is where things get really interesting. There's this quote from a major consensus statement on sports concussions from 2017, and it's a real game changer. Persistent symptoms post-concussion do not necessarily reflect ongoing physiological injury to the brain. Think about what that's saying. It's suggesting this pretty radical idea. Maybe the problem isn't just an ongoing brain injury. And that opens up a whole new line of investigation.
So that's our cue. Let's start looking beyond the brain. I mean, just think about it for a second. The kind of force that's strong enough to cause a concussion, it doesn't just stop at the brain, right? That same force almost always whips the neck around too.
And when you actually put the symptoms side by side, it's kind of fascinating. On the left, you've got your classic concussion stuff. On the right, the symptoms you'd get from a neck injury, like whiplash. And look at that overlap. It's just undeniable. Headaches, dizziness, even those cognitive problems. And there's a good reason for this. The nerves and blood vessels way up at the top of your neck are directly wired into your head. So when they get irritated, they can send out these signals that feel exactly like they're coming from your brain, even though the problem really started in your neck.
Okay, so this overlap, it's not just a hunch or a theory. Researchers actually decided to put this to the test in a 2019 study, designed specifically to see what role the neck plays in post-concussion syndrome. Let's dig into what they found out.
So, what was the goal of the study? Well, their mission was actually pretty simple and direct. They wanted to take a bunch of people who had these nagging concussion symptoms, give their necks a really thorough physical exam, and see if they could find a solid connection.
And the results? They were absolutely astounding. Get this, in a whopping 90% of the people in the study, the physical therapists concluded that yes, a neck problem was definitely contributing to their post-concussion symptoms. 90%.
And the evidence just kept piling up. 85% of those same folks said, yeah, I get neck pain a lot.
But here's where the link becomes just impossible to ignore. That exact same number, 85%, had moderate to severe pain when a clinician actually physically examined the joints at the very top of their neck. So this wasn't just them saying it hurt. This was a real, measurable, physical finding.
Okay, so what exactly were these clinicians finding in their exams? What were the telltale signs that made them so sure the neck was a part of the problem?
Well, they found this really consistent pattern of clues. They saw pain and stiffness way up high in the cervical spine, the part of your spine that's in your neck. They also found tenderness in those little muscles right at the base of the skull, the suboccipital muscles. Plus, when people turned their head, it was often uneven. They could turn farther one way than the other. And finally, they got a positive result on a very specific diagnostic test.
Okay, so that last one, the flexion-rotation test, sounds super technical, I know, but really all it is a gentle hands-on test where a therapist checks out the movement between the C1 and C2 vertebrae. That's the top two bones in your entire spine. And here's the kicker. When the movement there is restricted, it's a known trigger for headaches and dizziness. Sound familiar? It's exactly the kind of stuff that just hangs on and on after a concussion.
So, what does this all mean for you? If you're the one struggling to get back to 100%, well, it means there's a whole new path forward, and it's one that could make a world of difference.
And honestly, this is such hopeful news. Because, let's face it, a brain injury can feel so
abstract. It's hard to know what to do. But a neck injury, that's a concrete, physical problem, and it's one that clinicians have really effective, proven treatments for, like manual therapy and specific exercises.
So this gives us a really clear roadmap. If your symptoms just aren't getting better, the next step is pretty straightforward. Ask your doctor or your physical therapist about your neck. Ask them if it could be playing a role. A good physical exam can figure out if it's a factor, and that could open the door to a treatment plan designed just for you, one that could finally bring you some relief.
And this, right here, is the big takeaway from the researchers themselves. Neck-related findings are important to recognize as they have the potential to contribute to persistent symptoms post-concussion and may respond to neck treatment. Basically, spotting these neck-related issues is so important because it's a problem we actually know how to fix. It means that addressing the neck isn't just an extra, it's a crucial and way too often overlooked part of concussion recovery.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. If you felt stuck, like you're just going in circles with these symptoms, maybe the most important question to ask isn't just what's wrong with my head, but what's going on in my neck?